Welcome back to this course, Introduction to the Java Programming Language. This is a presentation of coding boot camps. So with this session, session 4, we've been talking about flow control. In the previous video, we discussed conditional flow control. In this video, we are going to discuss loop flow control. So with Java, Java supports two families of loops. There is the for family and the while family. And these are very, very similar to loop constructs in C++, C, .NET, Python, many others. For the for loop has the header and it has the code block between the braces. It has three sections here, so we can see these semicolons dividing up these three sections. So let's discuss the sections. So the first section is the initialization of the loop. So we initialize here an integer for counting, and we initialize it to 0, so the iterations of the loop are going to be 0 indexed. The second section is the gatekeeper. And if the second section is true, the statements in the code block continue to run, so we continue to loop. If false is returned for this condition, then the application exits the loop. And the third statement is the counter, so it's counting how many iterations of the loop have run. So in this case, it's going to increment by 1. So it's going to start with I equal to 0, which makes this the gatekeeper statement true, and then I is going to be incremented by 1 every time we execute the code block. So this will run 4 times. As soon as I is greater than 3, the loop will be exited. And then we also have the while loops. So the syntax, again, is very similar. We've actually worked with this a little bit in some of our previous labs. It's, again, very, very similar to .NET, C++. The while loop has a condition, and the code block will execute continuously while the condition is true. So as long as this condition is true, the code block will continue to execute. As soon as the condition becomes false, the application will exit the loop. There's also a do-while loop, and a do-while loop is almost like an upside-down version of the while loop. Here, the code block runs first, and then the condition is evaluated. So, and again, the code block after do will continue to run as long as the condition in the while statement is true. The difference is the code block runs first and then the condition is evaluated, where here the condition is evaluated to see if the next iteration of the code block should run. And again, these are very, very similar to other programming languages. The major difference here with the do-while loop is that you can always guarantee that the code block will run at least one time. And there's also a variation of the for loop. It is called the for each. And this is used for iterating through data structures. So we can see here we have an array, an integer array, which is a data structure, and it's called ARR. And we have 4 elements here. And you can see here integer element, and it's going to iterate through data structure or array ARR, and then print what that element is. So we'll see a 2, a 0, a 1, and a 3. And we don't have to set up any counters or anything like that because it's just going to iterate until it reaches the end of this array. And here are ways of stopping the loop, really based on some kind of a condition. So there is the break and then the continue statements, both similar in that they allow us to exit a loop, but they exit a loop in different ways. So the break statement is used to break out of the loop completely. and start or continue to execute the rest of the application. The continue statement breaks out of the current iteration but stays within the loop. So if we take a look here, we set up this for header here, this for loop, to start at 0 and to continue to print this Yahoo while I is less than 5, and then we iterate by 1. We count up by 1. However, though, we have set up this condition here, so we test if I is greater than or equal to 2, and then we break out, and then we print the current value of I as soon as we break out. So you can see here from the output. So while I is equal to 0, we get Yahoo. While I is equal to 1, we get Yahoo. However, the next time we run, it's going to be equal to 2. So we break immediately, and we print the 2 right here. So you can see how we broke out and never printed Yahoo again. So that is the break statement. The continue statement allows us to exit a particular iteration. So we can see here we have I, we're initializing I to be 0, and we're going to loop while I is less than 10 and then count up by 1. So in this case here, we are going to evaluate for a condition. If I is equal to 4, we're going to say continue, which means when I is equal to 4, we're going to skip this iteration of the loop. And we're going to continue to print whatever the value of I is. So if we take a look at this output, when I was equal to 0, we were able to print because this condition was false. When I was equal to 1, this condition again was false. So we printed, or we output 1. Same with 2 and 3. But notice here, there's no 4, because when this condition was true, we continued. So we went right back with I being equal to 5, and then we output that 6. So you could see here for this condition, we just exited that iteration of the loop. So please take a look. We will be doing a lab. We will be reviewing the lab. And please stay tuned for the next video.